Hello, and welcome to the Building Relationally Healthy podcast. I'm Tennison.
And I'm Ginelle. Thank you for joining us as we discuss topics and give practical tools that help you live, grow, and be in healthy, joy-filled relationship with God, yourself, and others.
For more information and resources, or if you're looking for coaching, connection, and community, visit tableandwell.org. We hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Table and Well podcast. This is episode number 36 of season 3, and we are still trucking along in our series, Wisdom Keepers, the role of elders in building healthy community. And we are in the second part of our conversation with Amy Glaser of Alive&well. And guys, if you missed last week's podcast or haven't listened to it yet, I want to encourage you to do so. It was just really good. A lot of great conversation, and really excited for you guys to hear today's conversation. So in this episode, we are going to be talking through some really interesting topics, and really the premise of this is practicing becoming an elder. Like, how do we do that? How do we practice being an elder? How do we practice bringing joy and connection into our communities, into our families? Ginelle makes a statement in this podcast that she says, we want to absolutely be elders in our community, but really we need to be elders in our family first, and that's where it starts. And sometimes that's the hardest place to do it. And we find it really easy to connect with young adults or people outside of our immediate family a lot easier than it is to connect with those in our family, because there's history there and they know us, and there's some shame that goes along with that. And so how can we practice doing that in a really healthy way so we can be the elders in our family and in the community that we want to be and that we know we can be? So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and listen to this conversation with Amy Glaser.
A follow-up question to that as well is, so do we wait? Like, is there a point where people who are sitting in this elder stage and saying, okay, this is new to me and I don't feel quote unquote ready?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a ready? Is there I wait for 5 years and I practice this out? And how do I practice?
Wow.
What does practice even look like? And some of us, like, I came in at 40 in this conversation completely underskilled.
Mm-hmm.
I was skilled in lots of coping mechanisms, none of them healthy.
Me too. Yeah.
So had to learn a new way. And we did spend a couple of years just kind of tucking ourselves away and doing our own deep personal healing. So I think that is an aspect. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what your response would be about what that might look like.
Yeah, I think yes, I definitely think there can be deep value in this idea of tucking yourself away for a period of time, because there is the issue of capacity. So I can only do what I have the capacity for. So even though I might have a deep desire to come in and to be an elder in my group or my community or even in my family, if I don't have the capacity to maintain that, it's going to get really messy. So acknowledging okay, well, let me look at, do I have the capacity to have a conversation with my adult child about where I messed up and stay my relational self if they say, yeah, you really messed up my life and it's still really messed up. Yeah. If I can't have that conversation, then I need to okay, I'm not quite ready to dive into the whole thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I see a beautiful place for this idea of authenticity and transparency. And so coming in and going, you guys, this is really going to be bad. This is going to be messy, but I'm learning about these things. I would love to, I would love to be at this level that I've learned about, and I haven't been. And so, do we have the capacity as a group or a family or whatever to muddle through? and acknowledge that it's going to be messy. If I were learning to play the violin, it would be messy for a while. If I were learning how to play pickleball that everybody is playing, I would not go out there and just nail it the first day. So it's the same thing. So I think it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's no
back and forth.
I agree 100%. It's the both and of it. It is the idea of and I think there are probably some areas where you would have more capacity than others because you have life experience in other places that really do translate. You just don't know maybe how they translate. And so you can come in and start to build that capacity. But I think it really is the both and of it. One thing that we say a lot is that it's practice. And we say if you're able um, to look at these encounters specifically really in the beginning of learning these skills as practice, and you, like you said, Amy, you go in and say, okay, do we have as a family the capacity to practice this together? This might get really messy and ugly, but can we practice because we want to do this better, we want to do this relationally. And then you can go into it. Then there's if everyone can go into it with that kind of mindset, then there's grace for the mistakes, and there's a little grace for the okay, that pushed your button. That's in the give and take in that. And so it is. It's the both and of it.
One of the things we talk about in our collabs is this concept of when we're trying to practice with other people, we don't give them our entire basket of eggs. Like if eggs were the most important things in our lives and all the things that we need to build trust around, like we don't just start out by handing our whole basket of eggs. And even as an elder, we're not asking for the whole basket of eggs, right? Like let's try with one small thing in our family when we're rebuilding relationship. Let's try one small thing. Don't pick the golden egg for your first shot. And don't try to tackle everything at once. Like our goal would be that we could eventually get through all of those things together.
Yeah. And that's because if pick an egg that isn't going to destroy the family if it breaks.
Yes. Don't pick the biggest thing. Pick the thing that you're like, okay, well, we could talk about that. And even if it doesn't go well, I feel like we'll all recover. I love that image of the eggs. And I think that also leads to something that has to do with the fact that you talked about how you guys tucked yourself away for some healing and growth. There's this idea of appropriateness. So, it is not like, so we also have like a basket of eggs of pain. And so when we're starting, it may be, and each person would be able to sense with Jesus for themselves, like, oh, do I have so many eggs of pain that if I try to come into the family, I'm going to start lobbing eggs at everybody, and it's not going to be appropriate. So being able to share appropriately and recognize other people's capacity. So it's like, oh, I see why Tennison and Ginelle say, tuck away, get some healing so that I can go, I'm going to sit these eggs of pain over here, and we're going to try these small things and share a tiny bit of pain and not lob everything at them. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think this is where back to a manual process comes in so critically, because thankfully the Lord can handle our eggs of pain, and learning to exchange those with him and pass them back and forth is really where it begins, and where professionals come into play, where they are professional egg holders.
I love that. I love it. Yes.
And they can teach us the skill of passing back and forth and learning safety and learning trust and learning communication too. And I think journey groups is great for this in a smaller measure, where we're working on those smaller eggs of like, how do I show up in a community? How do I share things that might matter to my heart? How do I show up for others when they're sharing things that matter to their heart? Journey groups are very similar to collabs in that way. And we're not passing around trauma pain, right? We're going to therapy for that.
Right.
But we are practicing that skill in agreed upon safe space. And that's what I think is so amazing about them, so that when we are ready to engage in our families and in our communities, we've had some gentle practice at it.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
developed some skill over time with low stakes,
Yeah.
right? Like when
Yes.
we're
Mm-hmm.
when we're first
Low
learning a language, yeah,
stakes.
low stakes.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
really good
So
because
good.
With
Yes.
high return, low
yeah.
stakes, high return.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it's talk, as we all know and as we've said multiple times in different spaces, and I'm sure you've said this too, that we only really learn or transform through having different experiences. Like we actually have to experience something different
Hmm.
in order for there to be an actual change.
Hmm.
And so
Right.
that space of low small eggs, giving those back and forth,
Hmm.
even though it's a small egg, it's a new experience
Yes.
and it begins to change that. So where as you ramp that up to bigger eggs or more eggs,
Hmm.
then you have confidence because you know people are glad to be with you and I can share this and I know that they can handle it and I can handle it and we can have new experiences that gives our brain a new way to
Hmm.
process and to walk these things out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we can handle a little bit bigger egg, passing it back and forth once we have some of that knowledge and skill and we recognize like, oh, okay. So that's what that looks like.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And in that practice phase, it's less about the egg and more about the learning to hand it back and forth.
Yes, the process
And then
rather
when
than,
that
yeah.
egg becomes more precious, then the
Yeah.
egg becomes important. We talk
Yes.
about keeping relationships bigger than the problem. And if we're not
Yeah.
practicing, this is so funny how this has become an analogy, but if we're not,
Everything. It's
we
great.
haven't practiced
I
handing
love it.
the egg back and forth when it's a problem we're trying to work through, then we just don't have the skill to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why practicing before the stakes are high and practicing when the stakes are low
Hmm.
is really, really good.
Yeah.
One more thing, and then we'll
Go ahead.
button up
No,
this
you're
piece of the
fine. This is
conversation.
great.
But we were talking about many of us realizing like, oh, man, I wish I would have done something different with my children. And now they're young adults, and now there's conversations of repair, um, and
Hmm.
and having to navigate new ways of relating. And and one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, in doing collabs, we'll talk to and have lots of parents of young adults and that are needing this repair. And
Hmm.
I think there's a reality to face, or something worth mentioning around, we will find it easier to do this egg back and forth, if we're going to keep that analogy, with people that we don't have deep wounded history with or deep regret with. And it can be tempting to go into community and want to be that elder in these spaces because it's lighter.
Mm.
And I
Hmm.
think we actually can, in some ways, begin to practice in community quicker than we can practice in relationship with our young adult kids
With
that we've
family.
wounded.
Yeah.
And I think there can be some guilt around that in the way that it feels so easy with that 20-year-old. But with my 20-year-old, it feels nearly impossible because
Sure.
they're holding a lot against me, and I'm holding a lot against myself, right? And and what I want to just say is that I think there's a both and here
Mm-hmm.
in that, of like, yeah,
Hmm.
it will be easier. And maybe that's part of that gentle egg pack back and forth till you gather some skill, to
Hmm.
then have that deeper conversation with your own kiddos. But also, we can't be elders in our community if we're not willing to have those conversations with our kiddos and those
Yeah.
repair.
Right.
Curious about your thoughts about that.
I agree. I think about, I worked in recovery ministry for a long time, and the concept of sponsors was this exact concept that, oh, this sponsor is glad to be with this person who has totally blown apart their life, and they can serve as a stopgap
Mm-hmm.
until the person gets enough stability and sobriety and those things. And then the family can go, oh, okay, maybe
Mhm.
we are safe, to kind of be glad to be together. And so it's kind of like the flip side of that, oh yeah, it is hard because we have lost some of our glad to be together or around these particular topics. So I think going back and going, oh, the reason a lot of that stuff happened in our family is because we didn't know how to build joy, and we didn't know how to quiet together. We didn't know how to keep our relational circuits on. So how about if I go back and do what I can to build joy with my adult children without expecting that they take on the weight of my regrets before we've built enough joy for them to hold that.
Okay.
Because, this is a weight in their life. And so there can be a little bit of, oh, I feel yuck. I want to get this off of me. So let me, and we see that in recovery when they talk about making amends. Sometimes family members are like, not ready. I'm not ready. So we need to build something else. And so for us, we know, oh, that's going back to building some joy and quieting together and getting to the place where we can stay relational before I say, I want you to take responsibility to hold the egg of my regret.
Wow.
Or I want to repair this.
Yeah.
And the other person may not be ready. So
That's right. Life is relationships. Most of us have grown up without learning how to do relationships really well. See, we learn skills such as reading and arithmetic, how to drive a car, or even specific skills needed for work. But what about how to handle big emotions, how to nurture conflict with care, or even to repair relational ruptures and rebuild trust? See, many of us have missed out on the essential skills needed to do relationship. These gaps in our growth affect our lives in very real and painful ways. This is why we have created Relational Collabs. Relational maturity isn't a skill that you're just born with. It must be modeled, learned, and strengthened just like every other skill. Whether you're navigating relationships in your home, in your workplace, or in your community, the Collabs will provide you with the tools and the skills that you need to live relationally well with God, yourself, and others. Growth is possible. Healing is possible. And you don't have to walk this journey alone. Our spring semester of Relational Collabs begins Monday, April 14th. Go to tableandwell.org/collabs for more information and to register today. Join the next Relational Collab and begin to cultivate the life of connection, resilience, and joy that you were made for.
everybody listening to this
These
podcast
eggs are getting a lot of use.
Eggs are getting a lot of play right now. This is great.
Yeah, we could have went the pickleball route. I was about ready, but Tennison's a big pickleball fan, so we could have totally went there too. But
More than a fan.
more than a fan, he's a regular player.
I am.
And competitor.
Right.
Yes.
So, okay. But what I wanted to say is that not everybody listening might even understand what it is to build joy.
Yeah.
Like in a relationship that maybe previously didn't have any or has some pain in the way. What does that even mean? I don't want to assume that people listening know, like, okay, yeah, right, build joy capacity or put joy in a relationship. So how would you encourage them to go about that? What would that look like?
Yeah. So first steps, I would think about, what does my face look like when I see this person? And so, when we all came on this Zoom call, it was like immediate faces lighting up, big smiles, very relaxed. And so, okay, I want to build that with this adult child, that things might be tense. And I want to try to go first. I want to show that glad to, I'm glad to be with you. And then and then having fun. So like we may not need to express our regrets. We may need to play Uno. We may need to watch a funny movie together. We may need to have conversations around, hey, what's the most fun thing you've done lately? Or what's your favorite movie these days? Or what have you eaten that you really liked lately? Or, just a little more lighthearted, just so that we're building again a little bit of a history of, oh, we enjoy each other. So whatever that looks like for each particular relationship. So it might look like pickleball. It could look like going to movies. It could look like, taking walks or going on a trip together. But how do we express that we are glad to be together and that we can actually have fun and play? Can we play with each other? And so when things are so fraught with meaning and pain and eggs, sometimes we forget to play. And so, those are the kinds of things I would suggest. Is what is something you would really like to do? Let's go do it.
Yeah, that's good. Because our brains need that, don't they? When they're facing challenge, our brains are going to look and see, is this person glad to be with me somewhere?
Yeah.
Have I experienced that? Can I find it? That's actually the truth of this relationship, is that this person is glad to be with me, that even if we have something hard that is creating tension or pain or something from the past that needs to be worked through, we're not doing that from a negative bank account.
Yeah.
Right. And that can become everything. Like, the pain can become, that is all this relationship is about. So we want to go back and say, hey, we're not going to talk about, the thing. But would you like to go do this? Or, what would feel good to you? I would love to spend an hour or two with you. And what would that look like for you, for it to be a good experience?
You've been listening to the Table and Well podcast. New episodes stream every Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review to let us know. Also, subscribe on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date on all things Table and Well. To learn more, start your journey, or get information on how Table and Well can help develop your community, family, or teams to be relationally healthy and authentically connected, please go to tableandwell.org/collab to schedule an interest call, or you can email us directly at known@tableandwell.org.